After reviewing the Caledonian Railway 498 class a fair while back, I wanted to look at another little shunter from the Caledonia Works range, but it's taken longer than expected to get around to it. There aren't many to choose from, but one of the options is number 313 from the South Eastern and Chatham Railway. SECR 313 was a tiny 040 saddle tank built by Manning Wardle of Leeds in 1881. Initially, the SECR's Ashford Works had prepared drawings of an 040 saddle tank to build themselves, but the design never made it past the drawing board. In 1881, Folkstone Harbour, down in Kent, was in desperate need of another shunter, so the SECR re-examined the 1876 drawings, but decided to go with an engine from Manning Wardle instead. In the end, 313 would go on to work in Folkstone for many years, not being withdrawn until 1919. However, instead of being scrapped, she was later restored and re-entered service in 1925, now with a new number of 225S, and having the distinction of being the smallest locomotive on the Southern Railway, in stark contrast to absolute monsters like the Lord Nelson 460. 225S was intended to be the works shunter at Ashford, but only served in this role for 2 years before being transferred to Meldon Quarry, near Oakhampton, in 1927. She remained in service until 1938, when she was in need of boiler repairs, but due to the condition she was in by this point, she went to the scrapyard again. Sadly, this charming little saddle tank did not survive into preservation. 313 was released as a train simulator add-on in September 2020, and if I remember rightly, she was done as a special commission. As of mid-October 2025, she is still available to purchase from CW's website for a full price of £12, or around $26.39 NZD. That's cheaper than normal for CW products, which generally cost around £20 these days, and I'm guessing it's a reflection of the smaller amount of content included, especially when compared to huge and comprehensive packs like the London and South Western Railway N15, better known as the King Arthur class. CW's add-on for TS does not include 313 in her original condition. Instead, she is only modelled in a modified state with a full cab, instead of just a weatherboard. This pack includes 3 liveries for the locomotive, namely South Eastern and Chatham Railway lined green, Southern Railway Engineers green, and, for some reason, a fictional National Coal Board blue as well. You also get a rather unusual form of brake van, and this is apparently what the locomotive would have worked with at Folkstone. Besides the livery, the only differences between the SECR and Southern variants that I noticed were the chimney, buffer types, and colours for the cab interior. The Southern livery has the so-called dumb buffers, whose purpose was to prevent buffers from locking up as the locomotive went around tight curves while pulling wagons. Another notable aspect of 313's design is her smokebox door, which hinges upwards. I'm not a fan of this door type myself, but each to their own. Incidentally, the only Manning Wardle locomotive that I recall seeing in person had a more conventional smokebox door. She looks a little bit like 313 to me, but was built much later in 1914. Thinking back to the modelling for 313, this is done to Chris's usual high standards, and I am of the opinion that it has aged well. An interesting detail that I noticed was the safety valve bonnet located in the cab, instead of outside, between the cab and water tank. From a distance, the SECR livery looks to be pristine, but you can see some subtle weathering as you look closer at the locomotive, particularly on the rear buffer beam. For reasons that I honestly don't remember, the weathering effects on 313 remind me of the Highland Railway Jones Goods class. Just for the heck of it, I thought I'd put 313 alongside one of the largest commercially available engines in CW's range, namely the LMS Princess Royal Pacific. 313 is built on SimNation's Locomotion 1.3 scripting, and despite her tiny size, she is not light on features. The list includes, but is not limited to, Performance Mode, numerous cab camera views, a fully detailed cab, 3D firebox, animated valve gear inside the frames, although it's really hard to see, fire intensity synchronized with the exhaust beat, and fluctuating water level depending on the route gradient. Due to this locomotive's strong rolling resistance, I suggest keeping the regulator open at around 10% when coasting, otherwise you stand a good chance of slowing down and stopping, even when the handbrake is released. The little saddle tank does not come with any scenarios, so you'll have to either run the engine in quick drive mode or set up a standard or free roam scenario yourself. The quick drive consist requirements are SECR Wagon Pack 1 and SR Wagon Pack 1. Both of them are available on CW's website, and they cost £8 each. I don't know if we've got any TS routes that feature the Folkstone Harbour branch, so instead, I've been running SECR 313 on other random UK routes that I've got in my collection. Although she didn't run in Weymouth, I think the engine looks perfectly fine running on the Weymouth Harbour Tramway, which is included as part of the Dorset Coast route by Golden Age Developments. I can imagine that, if 313 was preserved, she would be based on the Middleton Railway in Leeds. As advised in the manual, the ideal fire mass for SECR 313 is only between 190 and 200 pounds, or 16 to 18% on the F4 heads-up display. This caught me by surprise because I'm used to the much higher fire masses on bigger locomotives, not just those from CW. Something else that I noticed is 313's lack of steam or vacuum brakes. Instead, she only has a handbrake, which you can apply and release with forward slash, as opposed to forward axle rows. Although 313 was never intended for anything more than shunting, I still thought I'd see just how fast she could go, so I did a test run from Annan to East Riggs on the Western Lines of Scotland route. During the run, I couldn't get the engine to go any faster than 19 miles per hour, and even with such a short train as this one, 313 wasn't particularly quick off the mark. And considering the engine's tiny coal and water capacity, I wasn't going to try my luck on the Newton Stewart to Castle Douglas section, or any other steeply graded parts of the Port Road, for that matter. In closing, and while I generally prefer to drive bigger locomotives, such as the South Eastern Chatham Railway D-Class or LNER A4 Pacific, I still think there's something to be said for smaller locomotives like SECR 313, and I think she deserves a 6.6 out of 10. If you like shunting in dockyards, locomotive depots, or other industrial environments, then this little Manning-Wardle saddle tank could be worth a try. Incidentally, this video is going live right around the time when CW is starting their Christmas sale, so you'll be able to get 313 for 30% off.